Welcome to Army Controller Training Module. Inspired by Shri Sanjeev Mittal, IDAS, Controller General of Defence Accounts. Lyrics by Shri Sanjeev Kumar, IDAS, Additional Secretary and Financial Advisor, Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. Presented by Principal Controller of Defence Accounts, Southwestern Command Army, Jaipur. Conception and patronage by Shri Saroj Kumar, IDAS, Principal Controller of Defence Accounts, Southwestern Command Army, Jaipur. Chief Mentor and Reviewer Shri Himanshu Shankar, IDAS, Integrated Financial Advisor, Southwestern Command Army, Jaipur. Directed by Dr. Bhuvnesh Kumar Verma, IDAS, Joint Controller of Defence Accounts. Assistant Directors Shri Abhishek Sharma, IDAS, Shri Sushil Riyad, IDAS, Shri Mohan Lal Meena, IDAS and Shri D.K. Oza, IDAS. Defence Accounts Department comes under the Ministry of Defence with the Controller General of Defence Accounts as its head. It is one of the oldest central government departments functioning for more than 270 years. The duties of Defence Accounts Department are broadly audit, payment, accounting and financial advice to armed forces, ordnance factories, border roads, DRDO, Coast Guard, etc. The department is also responsible for making payment of pension to retired armed forces personnel, including defence civilians. The quality policy is: the Defence Accounts Department is committed to render efficient, correct and prompt accounting, payment and financial services leading to customer satisfaction. It is also committed to render efficient audit services to ensure public accountability. The mission statement of our department is: we strive to achieve excellence and professionalism in accounting and financial services and in performing audit functions.
Minimum government, maximum governance is the present government's commitment, and being part of the administration, we are mandated to fulfill this commitment. As Defence Accounts Department, we are expected to provide effective financial advice, internal audit and efficient accounting services to Ministry of Defence and its organizations, including the 3 services. To achieve this, we require a clear sense of responsibility at all levels, integration of the existing work procedures with a dynamically changing work environment by constantly adapting to new challenges quickly in a professional manner. For this, we have to strengthen our workforce with the required knowledge and expertise through suitably devised training programs. In this direction, I congratulate Shri Saroj Kumar, Principal Controller of Defence Accounts, Southwestern Command, for conceptualizing and creating the training module for the Army Controllers for meeting the departmental training requirements. Such effort is all the more commendable since it has been undertaken during the period of COVID-19 pandemic related national lockdown and its related restrictions on office functioning and travel. I have assessed these modules and it is my opinion that the contents of each video tutorial are adequate for providing in-depth knowledge about the subject as also its practical aspects through examples and case studies. I hope this Army Controller Training Module will become a milestone in imparting departmental training online and shall further motivate other controllers to develop similar video tutorials on other topics as envisaged in the DAD Training and Development Policies 2019. Moreover, development of e-learning modules is the need of the hour for training of our officers and staff. Once again, I feel great pleasure in conveying my best wishes to all the officers and staff involved for contributing to the development of these training modules in a comprehensive and effective manner, especially in view of the fact that the entire exercise was carried out by officers and staff members of Principal CDS South Western Command. I hope to see more of such innovative developments in future for enhancing the training functions of our department. I would like to end with these few lines from Shri Amit Arjun Bhardwaj, a motivational expert. कुछ करना है तो डटकर चल, थोड़ा दुनिया से हटकर चल, लीक पर तो सभी चल लेते हैं, कभी इतिहास को पलट कर चल, मिलेगा तेरी मेहनत का फल, किसी और का ना इंतज़ार कर, कुछ करना है तो डटकर चल, थोड़ा दुनिया से हटकर चल। थैंक यू। जय हिंद।
मित्रों, आज देश ही नहीं वरन संपूर्ण विश्व एक भयंकर त्रासदी से गुजर रहा है। ऐसी स्थिति में सभी प्रकार के कार्य बुरी तरह से प्रभावित हुए हैं, फिर चाहे वो सरकारी कार्य हो अथवा गैर सरकारी कार्य। हमारे विभाग का एक महत्वपूर्ण कार्य अपने अधिकारियों व कर्मचारियों के लिए प्रशिक्षण की उचित व्यवस्था करना है, जिससे हम अपने निर्धारित कार्य को सुव्यवस्थित, दक्षता एवं गुणवत्तापूर्ण ढंग से संचालित कर सकें। वर्तमान विश्व त्रासदी को देखते हुए आज सभी जगह सामाजिक दूरी एक अनिवार्यता हो गई है, जिससे कि हम स्वयं को तथा अपने आसपास के लोगों को संक्रमित होने से रोक सकें। इसी को दृष्टिगत रखते हुए यह सोचा गया है कि हम प्रशिक्षण में ई लर्निंग माध्यम को अपनाकर अपने अधिकारियों व कर्मचारियों को ऐसे किसी जोखिम से बचाते हुए दूरस्थ प्रशिक्षण के माध्यम से प्रशिक्षित कर सकें। रक्षा लेखा महानियंत्रक महोदय के मार्गदर्शन में ट्रेनिंग मॉड्यूल इसी सोच का परिणाम है और इसमें हमने उन महत्वपूर्ण विषयों को समाहित किया है जो सामान्यतया कमांड पीसीडीए सीडीए के लिए अति आवश्यक हैं। हमारे अधिकारियों और कर्मचारियों ने पूरा प्रयास किया है कि गुणवत्ता पूरी तरह से बनी रहे तथा वर्तमान नियमों अधिनियमों को भी सम्मिलित करने का प्रयास किया गया है। मुझे पूर्ण विश्वास है कि यह मॉड्यूल हमारे लोगों को समुचित प्रशिक्षण प्रदान करने में सार्थक होगा, जिससे वे अपने कार्यों को कुशलता व दक्षता पूर्वक संपादित कर सकेंगे। धन्यवाद।
सर्वश्रेष्ठ हो, सर्वप्रिय हो, कार्य करें सर्वोत्तम, यही हमारा मूल मंत्र हो, यही हमारा लक्ष्य परम। सर्वश्रेष्ठ हो, सर्वप्रिय हो, कार्य करें सर्वोत्तम, नमन करें उन सेनानी को, नमन करें उन सेनानी को, कष्ट निरंतर पाते हैं, मातृभूमि रक्षा हित प्राणों की बलि चढ़ाते हैं, प्राणों की बलि चढ़ाते हैं। सर्वश्रेष्ठ हो, सर्वप्रिय हो, कार्य करें सर्वोत्तम, यही हमारा मूल मंत्र हो, यही हमारा लक्ष्य परम। सर्वश्रेष्ठ हो, सर्वप्रिय हो, कार्य करें सर्वोत्तम, यही हमारा मूल मंत्र हो, यही हमारा लक्ष्य परम।
Hello friends, I am Puran Meena.
And I am Nisha. And in this session, we'll discuss about e-governance and 5 subtopics, that is e-tendering, e-procurement, government e-marketplace, e-payment and advantages of e-governance. So let's start with e-governance. What is e-governance? E-governance is a style of governance in which use of paper is eliminated or is greatly reduced and work is done in an online mode. So we can say e-governance is the application of information and communication technology for delivering government services for exchange of information, for communication transactions between government to citizen, government to employees, government to business, and government to government. Therefore, it is a smart governance which expands to simple, moral, accountable, responsive, and transparent. With smart governance, government services are made available to citizens in a very quick, convenient, and efficient way, thereby reducing physical movement of correspondence. So, the basic purpose of implementing e-governance is to enhance government's ability to address the needs of general public, to simplify working processes, and to promote good governance through transparency, efficiency, and accountability. Towing to the directions of Government of India regarding the use of digital medium to improve upon the quality of services offered, which has been adopted by other department and ministries, our department has also taken the e-initiative forward and has adopted emerging technologies in most of its working areas like accounting, payment, internal audit, and financial advice functions. E-ticketing, e-audit, e-concurrence, e-PPO, digital library, e-Suchna, e-MPR are some of the examples where e-initiative has been taken by the department. These initiatives have greatly improved upon the quality of services being offered, which consequently improved the productivity.
Now taking some of the e-initiative implementation briefly. First, e-ticketing. This initiative has replaced the existing system of manual railway ticketing on warrants, Form D, concession vouchers with an electronic web-based system, that is defense travel system, to address issues related to accounting, audit, and monitoring in manual system, and to meet the current requirement of our defense services. Next, e-audit. E-Post Audit was conceived as an e-governance initiative to bridge the interface between Indian Air Force and PCDA, which allow for easy and seamless flow of documents for the activity of post audit. It was fully operational from January 2015 in the office of PCDA Air Force Dehradun and JCDA Nagpur. E-audit on EMOLS, that is integrated material management online system, is one of the best example of mutual cooperation between service provider, that is PCDA Air Force, and the user, that is Air Force. Next, ePPO. Unlike existing procedure of notifying sanction of pensionary benefits through PPO in ePPO project, digitally signed ePPO in PDF file format and PPO data in XML file format will be sent directly to banks through a secured file transfer protocol for timely payment of pensionary benefits. E-concurrence. E-concurrence is a facility on EMOL system developed by Air Force, providing an interface with integrated financial advisor functionaries to allow online financial concurrence of the cases up to AON stage without having to refer to physical files at offices of IFA, as it provides for complete access to information. Vetting of proposals can be done in more comprehensive manner. Other implementation of technology in our department are digital library, compilation system, e-Suchna, PAO portal, e-MPR, and many more in line.
As I said earlier, technology is now being used in all working processes of government, which also includes procurement of goods or services. Therefore, the government has created some of the e-procurement portals for online procurement of goods or services, which we will discuss in coming session. But before that, we should know a little about e-procurement and e-tendering. So what is e-procurement? It refers to process of purchase and sale of goods or services through electronic methods. It is certainly superior to process of manual procurement. How is it superior and how it helps us? In this, we can say it considerably reduces the time involved in procurement process. Second, it provides transparency. Also, an e-procurement platform drastically increase market reach for both buyers and the suppliers. And lastly, it reduces and simplifies the steps involved in procurement, leading to cost cutting. Now comes e-tendering. What is e-tendering? It is a part of the process of conducting procurement online, primarily to facilitate a more efficient way of sourcing suppliers. We can say when the complete tendering process from advertisement to receiving and submitting of tender related information are done online, it is called as e-tendering. It should be noted here that in accordance to Rule 159 of GFR 2017, an organization should publish its limited tender inquiries and open tender inquiries on Central Public Procurement Portal, that is CPP portal, and on its local website. Now coming to e-procurement portals, which are prescribed mandatory for ministries or departments to receive all bids in respect of all procurements as per Rule 160 of GFR 2017. There are two portals, namely, first, Central Public Procurement Portal, that is CPP portal, and second, Government e-Marketplace or GEM.
First, we will discuss about Central Public Procurement Portal. Central Public Procurement Portal has been designed, developed and hosted by National Informatics Center, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology in close association with Department of Expenditure to ensure transparency in public procurement process. The primary objective of the CPP portal is to provide a single point access to the information of procurement made across various government ministries and departments. The CPP portal has two modules, that is e-publishing and e-procurement. It is mandatory for all ministries, departments of the central government to publish all their tender inquiries and information about the resulting contract on the CPP portal as per Rule 160 of GFR 2017. When comes to the information being provided from the portal, we see that the portal provides access to information such as documents relating to pre-qualifications, bidders registration, bidding documents, details of bidders, exclusions, debarments, and selection of successful bid.
Now we comes to third subtopic of the session, that is GEM. So what is GEM? It is one of the e-initiative of the government ensuring online procurement of goods or services and replacing physical procurement methods. The government e-marketplace is a platform where common user goods or services can be procured by various government departments. It is to be noted here that online procurement of goods or services by ministries or department will be mandatory for those goods or services which are available on GEM in accordance to Rule 149 of GFR 2017. Now we will know how procurement is done through GEM. But before that, we should know what are the basic requirements for commencement of online procurement. First of all, we need a primary user. So who is a primary user? A primary user is one on behalf of whom procurement is done. Therefore, a primary user is officially a buyer registered on GEM. For registration of primary user, the requirements are: first, mandatory requirement is that he should be an officer of the rank of Deputy Secretary to Government of India or equivalent, or head of the office at sub-center or unit. Other details like organization name and complete address of organization, mode of payment to be used by the organization, name of the official, designation, official NIC mail ID, and Aadhaar linked mobile number are mandatorily required during the registration of primary user. After registration, a verifying authority needs to counter verify the details entered by the primary user. and the mandatory requirement for registration of a verifying officer or authority is that he should be an officer at the rank of Under Secretary to the Government of India or equivalent. Other details like name of the official, designation, official NIC mail ID, and Aadhaar linked mobile number are also required for registration of a verifying authority.
A primary user, after registering himself as a primary user, can add 2 or more secondary users. The secondary user, who works on behalf of primary user, has the most important part to play in the whole purchasing process, as it is the secondary user who selects the products, decide where and to whom it is to be delivered, and also makes the payment for the purchases. A detailed working of the secondary user will be discussed later. Now the big question: who can be a secondary user? He should be an officer at the rank of section officer and above. While registering, details like name, official nick, mail ID, and designation, Aadhaar linked mobile number are mandatorily needed. It is to be noted here that a buyer and consignee can be same or different user, but a payment authority is mandatory to be a different secondary user. As already said, secondary user has three defined roles. As a buyer, he selects the products, he selects the mode of procurement, and he generates sanction order and contract order. Thereafter, the secondary user takes over the role of consignee. As consignee, he receives goods, generates provisional receipt certificate, inspects the goods for their quality and acceptance. In case he is not satisfied with the quality of the goods supplied or their non-adherence to the supply order, he has the right to reject order within 10 days. Now, in the final role, the secondary user acts as a DDO and PAO. He carries the duties to ensure timely payment through SBI CMP for procured goods and services. Here, PFMS, that is Public Financial Management System, is used in other government ministries and departments for e-payment.
Before we move further, it would be prudent to briefly know about the Rule 149 of JFR 2017, which elaborates the various procurement procedures to be adopted on the basis of amount of purchase. Some of its high points are: first, when the purchase amount is less than 25,000. In this, the procurement can be made on directly from any supplier on GEM without comparison, which gives the buyer the liberty to select any product which meets their specifications. Second condition is there: when the purchase amount is more than 25,000 but less than 5 lakhs. Here, it is mandatory to do the comparison of the sellers or products first, and here the buyer is obligated to procure the L1 product. Online bidding and reverse auction option can also be used by the buyer at the discretion of the competent authority. Third condition is when the purchase amount is more than 5 lakhs. Here, it is mandatory to use the bidding and reverse auction option. Now we'll discuss the step-by-step process for procurement of goods amounting less than 25,000 through GEM portal. For this, first the buyer has to visit the GEM portal. Then there, the buyer needs to log in and selects the product after applying the administrative, financial and specification filter. Here, administrative filters contain details like quantity received, delivery location, supplier rating, etc. Further, financial filters contain details like product amount range, annual turnover of the supplier, and others. After selecting the product, add it to the cart. Then select the direct purchase option there. After selecting the direct purchase option, a demand generation page will be displayed, which is to be filled, containing details like demand number, demand date, last delivery date, selection of buyer, consignee, and payment authority. Then upload the financial approval which is taken offline. After that, submit it to generate the demand. Here, a notification will be sent to the HOD and buyer stating that a demand has been generated bearing a specific number. After that, generate the sanction order confirming the procurement. For this, e-signing of the buyer will be done through OTP. After e-signing, contract order will be generated and an online invoice will be generated and made available to the buyer and the payment authority. After generation of the online invoice, the supplier will dispatch the consignment. And here ends the role of a buyer. Now the consignee will log in. He receives the consignment and issues an online provisional certificate which contains information like quantity received and date of receipt of consignment. After doing the physical inspections of the goods received, he issues an e-signed CRAC, that is consignee receipt and acceptance certificate, which clearly indicates the order quantity, the rejected quantity, if any, with reasons of rejection, and the quantity accepted and cleared for payment. And here ends the role of a consignee. Now the DDO or the PAO will log in. He, before making payment, can have access to financial approval, contract order, sanction order, invoice, provisional receipt certificate, and consignee receipt and acceptance certificate. And lastly, he makes payment through SBI CMP and other options. Here ends the procurement process for purchase amounting less than 25,000.
Now, before going to step-by-step process for procurement of products amounting more than 25,000, let me explain the very important facets of the online process, that is bidding and reverse auction. Bidding. In bidding process, the user puts up his requirement online and various supplier or service providers define the best price at which they can provide the goods and services while keeping their own profit margins. It is a very important tool to arrive at a low price for any product. Second, reverse auction. In case of reverse auction, buyer further tries to lower the purchase price of the product from the available suppliers. In this, now suppliers compete amongst each other to obtain the business from the buyer by underbidding each other. Now, going to the steps which will be taken during procurement. First, select the product. Do comparison between 3 or more products. Then there are two conditions before the buyer. Either he has to purchase the L1 products, or if the competent authority wants to, can go for bidding options here. For bidding, he needs to select bidding option there. Then enter the bidding details like end date, location of vendor, etc. Then open the bid on end date. Here, if buyer does not get the required minimum number of vendors, he can extend the date of bidding with permission of competent authority. On opening of bid on end date, buyer again has two options. Either he has to purchase the L1 product, or he can go for reverse auction option if the competent authority wants.
As time also plays a very important role, there are specific time limits set for each stage of procurement, which is as follows. First, delivery period of the consignment. The consignment should be delivered within the time as decided by the buyer and defined in the contract while filling the demand generation page. Generation of invoice. It should be done before the dispatch of consignment at the consignee end. Delivery of goods at the consignee end. It should be completed within the delivery period as identified in the contract. Generation of provisional receipt certificate should take place within the 48 hours of receipt of consignment. Generation of consignee receipt and acceptance certificate should be done within 10 days of receipt of consignment. And last, the final payment, it should be completed within 10 days from generation of consignee receipt and acceptance certificate.
Now comes the role of IFA in GEM procurement. The IFA is not associated with any of the online activities of e-procurement. However, the IFA will be associated to provide acceptance of necessity prior to the concurrence. It is to be noted that IFA currently does not have a role in GEM online process, but the proposal is under consideration, where the IFA dashboard will be implemented and interface with the GEM portal.
As we have seen earlier in procurement process that after generation of duly signed online consignee receipt and acceptance certificate, the invoice is generated. After this, the GEM portal pushes the same e-signed invoices and bills to the Honeybee server located at CGDA, and from there, the bills and invoices are forwarded to Tulip Office Automation System. From there, the task holder in GEM cell of respective PCDA or CDA receives those online invoices or bills for pre-audit. During pre-audit, the bills or documents are audited as per the rules and audit manuals. In the case the bills or documents are rejected, then the invoices are returned to the buyer and again for audit will be received in offline mode. Finally, the daily payment sheet, the daily vouchers and check slips which are downloaded from Tulip Office Automation System are forwarded to D section for final payment.
Coming over to fourth subtopic of the session, that is e-payment. As we all know that like all other working process in government departments, the payment process has also been made easy or quick by implementing e-initiative. In our department, making payment of TADA bills, medical bills, salary, all GEM procurement bills are also processed online using SBI CMP. For this e-payment, or DAD has created a separate section, that is disbursement section, for timely payment of bills. Let's understand the step-by-step working of this section as far as making of e-payment is concerned. First, the DP sheets, DVs and check slips are received from audit section and GEM portal. Generation of CMP file in Tulip Automation, then cross-checking of DVs and checks comes in process. Then auto-generated CMP file is uploaded in CMP portal by the concerned W of the section. Then payment is made to all concerned third party by CMP portal and unique transaction number is generated. The UTR number is uploaded to the GEM portal and the corresponding procurement file is closed.
Now here comes the last topic of the session, that is advantages of e-governance. The first most important advantage of e-governance is speed. E-technologies make communication better and faster. It will take very less time for any policy or scheme to reach to the people, thereby enhancing two-way communication between citizens and government entities. For example, various type of bills from army units which previously took months' time to reach the payment authority, now with the use of technology are received within seconds. Second advantage is transparency. Democracy is all about transparency. With the use of technology, one can check status of any online process like form filling, RTI application, grievance application, and also can check reason for its delay with one's comfort. So wrongdoers will not be able to hide their corrupted deeds, thereby reducing corruption and strengthening democracy. For example, placing of bids on GEM portal by anyone from any city can be accessed by another person residing at some other city instantly, which enhances transparency. Third is accountability. Once transparency is achieved, government will automatically become answerable to the people. and there is little room left for any doubt or misrepresentation, which also improves citizen-government relationship. Fourth advantage is its convenience. Technologies make process convenient for citizens and saves their time. For example, online payment option for electricity, water, phone bills reduces the time wasted during standing in long queues for offline payment. The last advantage, cost cutting and environment friendly. The amount government invests in stationery for implementation of various schemes and policies will be saved with using of e-initiatives. Also, cutting of trees for use of paper will be greatly reduced, thereby making e-initiatives environment friendly. That's all for today's session. Thank you.
निश्चित्वा यह प्रक्रमते नान्तर्वसति कर्मणः अवन्ध्यकालो वश्यात्मा स वै पंडित उच्यते। अर्थात जो व्यक्ति किसी भी कार्य व्यवहार को निश्चय पूर्वक आरंभ करता है, उसे बीच में नहीं रोकता, समय को बर्बाद नहीं करता तथा अपने मन को नियंत्रण में रखता है, वही ज्ञानी है।